Hi friends, and welcome back to the DoSo Knits YouTube channel. My name is Kristen and I am a knitter and military spouse currently living in Denver, Colorado with my family. Today's video is episode 39 of my DoSo Knits Knitting Podcast, where I share with you guys what I've been working on, things I've finished, current projects I have, and any other ways knitting has interwoven into my life. So it has been a long time since I've posted a podcast episode. I just checked my YouTube channel and episode 38 of the podcast I posted 57 days ago. So it's been almost 2 months since I made a proper podcast to share with you guys what I've been working and knitting on and inspirations. So if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back during this break that I've had, and if you're a new viewer, welcome. I hope you enjoy. These are so fun to share with you guys, so I hope you enjoy. I figured at the beginning I would do a little recap of where I've been over the last 2 months. If you've seen some of the blogs I've posted a couple vlogs like tracking my knitting time, and then a couple vlogs for the mystery knit along MKAL. You probably know a little bit of what's happened, and if you can see behind me, it's a little different backdrop. So a couple months ago, my husband Shane and I decided that we wanted to actually start looking for a house. With the announcement of student debt relief and some other financial factors, we decided that it made financial sense, and we were able to actually look for and try to find a house. We had intentions of just trying to start looking, and then with hopes to move by January of 2023, because that's when our lease was up in our current apartment. So we were hoping to time it kind of right to where we wouldn't have to pay a month by month in the apartment, but if that happened, we were okay with that. But ended up happening was we started looking at houses, and we're really lucky to have found one within the first week that we started looking. We looked at a lot of houses that first week and found one that hit all of our wants and all of our needs, and that was within our price range. And so we put an offer in. We were able to close and move on the house very, very quickly, but also like with very little planning for me to give to you guys, saying I might be taking a break. It just all happened very, very quickly. But since then, we have moved into our new house. We are in the new place. We are so happy to be here, and I'm very happy to finally feel settled enough to start recording and podcasting and sharing with you guys again, because I've really missed it. I didn't realize it. Literally, when I looked and saw that it had been 57 days since my last podcast, I couldn't believe it. I feel like no time has passed, but I know a lot of time has passed. So I think I kind of realized it when I have now gathered all of the things to show you today, and there's a good amount of stuff over the last 2 months. So with that, I am very excited to be here and sharing with you guys again all that I've been working on. I have a lot of knitting, some acquisitions to show, and then I've actually been delving into a few other fibery crafts that I will show you guys at the end. But as always, show notes are linked in the little description box down below. I link to my Ravelry project pages if you'd like to see more details on what I'm working on, and I link to patterns outside of Ravelry if I can find them accessible. So if you can't go to Ravelry and look at the projects there, I at least link to patterns. If like designers have independent websites or sell on Etsy, I try to link to those, so if you can't access Ravelry, you can at least try to find the pattern. And I always try to include the photos here at least, so you know what project I'm talking about if it's not done. And the other admin thing, if you would like to follow me other places, I am DoSo Knits here on YouTube and Instagram and Ravelry. So if you ever want to tag me on Instagram showing you're watching the podcast, those are always really fun to see. Or if there's anything you're working on and you want to show me, that is a great way to connect in between these episodes and see what you guys are up to. But with all of that, we can move into some of the finished objects that I have here to show you guys today that I finished from the last episode up until now. So I hope you are in a comfy spot. I have a feeling this one is going to be a bit of a long one, and it's been a while since I podcasted, so hopefully I'm not a little rambly and not too rusty. I have a cup of baby spice tea here today from Bird and Blend. It's one of my favorite fall teas, and this mug is from Knit Swag. It's the reindeer mug. Moose are my favorite animal, and so these are really close to moose. I like to pretend that they are moose instead of reindeer because I love moose. But this is out of my Knit Swag mug. You can customize all of your designs and with your names, and the fabric on here. The design is like a knit fabric. So these are always really fun, and you can customize the colors too. So I highly recommend checking them out. It is a great, sturdy, like thick mug that's really nice as the weather has started to cool down. So we'll just move right into some finished objects. You can see the first one I am currently wearing. This is my Inclinations Cowl by Andrea Mowry. And I believe in the last episode I was still working on this. Let me check. Yeah. I showed it a little bit in my last episode. I've been working on this for quite a while, and then I actually bound off and finished it, and then didn't seam it up for about, it was probably a month, 3 to 4 weeks is how long I didn't seam this. It was probably a month, but this is what it looks like. I feel like it looks really nice. It's just like a really big slouchy kind of cowl. Yeah, so I used Audinal's flannel, which is a Surrey alpaca and merino blend, and the colorway was flannel. And then the other color yarn I used was Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool in the color Dead Reckoning. That is a sport weight, and I used 2 skeins of that. So the Audinal's flannel was a DK weight and then a sport weight, and I held them together and then alternated throughout to get this. The Audinal's flannel is a Knit Crate exclusive yarn that I got a while ago. And I had 2 skeins and it had been sitting in my stash, and I didn't know what to make with it. And I knew I wanted it to be close and snugly to my neck because it was so soft. And I feel like this was the perfect project. So when I'm not wearing it, this is what it looks like. And then it is seamed up the back. This is the part that I took a month to do. Just this like literally 20 minutes of seaming of mattress stitch. So you can see the color variation throughout. It's really, really cool. So the spin cycle changes colors, and then my other color that I used was the same throughout, which I think gives it a really nice effect. You knit it kind of in a weird way to where it's seamed now. So when you cast on, let me see if I can remember. So you cast on at this corner, and then you knit increasing. It's really hard to see, but it makes this triangle like this that you've knit. And then you start decreasing, and it just makes this, it's really hard when you're knitting it to be like, what, how does this end up seaming together to make this? Because the direction you're knitting it is this way, and then you like flip it on its side to seam it. So then all of your fabric then points this way instead of straight up and down. So like this is kind of the direction when you're knitting, and then you flip it to then seam it, which is really, really genius, but really hard to visualize when you're knitting how it's going to turn out. But I've really enjoyed wearing this. I think throwing it on under coats has been really nice. It's just really snugly, keeps your neck nice and warm without too much fabric everywhere. And the sari is just really nice. And I feel like it drapes really nicely without me having to like play with, like, you know, sometimes with the shawl you have to really play or look at it in a mirror to make sure it looks okay, which I am notoriously not good at doing. I just throw it on and don't really care how it looks. But this I feel like I can throw on, not care how it looks, and it still looks really nice. So I highly recommend this pattern. It was really fun to just use up 4 skeins and get them out. It is knit in a half fisherman's rib. So every other row you're doing like a knit one below, purl one. So a knit one, purl one essentially. And then on the back sides, it's a nice, just like knit texture. But the knit one below, purl one can take a lot of time. And this is a lot of knitting. Because of basically what happens with that knit one below is it takes, to get the same length that you would in stockinette over 4 rows, the 4 rows in the half fisherman's rib is really 2. So it's like double the amount of rows to get the finished object. But I think the finished object is really worth the time it takes. Just know going in, and I've seen other podcasts talk about this too. I think Youngfolk Knits mentioned it, that it is a lot of knitting. So just know if you're going into this project, it is not necessarily a quick knit. It is a lot of knitting, but the result is, it's great. I highly recommend it. So yeah, that is the first finished object I have to share with you guys today. My Inclinations Cowl. So we'll go through these next ones just a little bit faster. I have a couple pairs of socks that I have finished since the last time, and I haven't even blocked 2 of the 3 pairs to show you. So my first pair of socks that I've done, these are my, I call them my January Patreon socks from a homespun house. The color of these socks was an exclusive yarn from a homespun house, her Patreon top tier. You can get a sock set of yarn. So these were from January of 2022. And this color is called Daydreamer with the mini skein of Amethyst. I used Kay's vanilla sock recipe. I did these on 9-inch circulars. I did a 20 round 2x2 cuff, a heel flap and gusset with a garter edge, and then a normal foot and toe. So like I said, I haven't even blocked these yet. I've been saving them. I've been good. I've saved them and like to show you, and I haven't worn them yet. But just a simple sock pattern. I cast these on in March and finished them in mid-September. So for some reason, these just took me a really long time, but that's okay. 1 pair of socks finished during that time. I also finished 2 pairs of Desert Vista Dyeworks socks that I haven't shown you yet. So my September Desert Vista Dyeworks socks are these. I did share these on Instagram, so if you do follow me over there, you will have seen these. I did the DRK Everyday socks for these. I did the adult medium for my foot. I did these on Magic Loop, a US 1, 2.25 millimeter, and I really like how they look. I'm still debating on how I feel about this pattern. I'm knitting another pair and I will show you. I think I really like how the ribbing will feel on my foot, but something about a vanilla sock is just a lot easier to knit. But it's not like these are hard either. So the color of these was Blue Ridge Parkway by Desert Vista Dyeworks on her Viso base, which is a 75% merino and a 25% nylon. And it's a superwash merino. I've also been good and not worn these, even though I really, really want to. I think the ribbing looks really nice, and I love this gusset increase that happens. And then there's a fleagle heel, which I haven't done before this pair, and I find it really nice. If you like doing the heel turn of a part of a heel flap in gusset socks, basically a fleagle heel is just a really big heel turn that you do, and it's on the back versus the bottom of your foot. So it's really easy to do because the increases are pretty easy to read and do, and then this is just like a giant heel turn. So excited to have these done. And then I did finish my October Desert Vista Dyeworks socks. And since we were moving and I had the MKAL that I was working on, I decided to do DK socks for this month, and I decided to do monster socks. Desert Vista Dyeworks considers monster socks ones that you are not using a full skein for. So these were all from scraps from my Desert Vista These are all from scraps from previous Desert Vista Dyeworks socks that I have done, and I feel like I got them to match pretty well. So I did DK, and how I did that was by holding 2 fingering weight strands together, and then I used K of the Crazy Sock Ladies DK Vanilla Sock pattern, which is a free pattern, and I followed it exactly. So I did 10 rounds of cuff, 20 rounds of leg, heel flap and gusset, decreases, and down to the toe. The colors I used is I used Desert Vista Dyeworks Green Plaid Cup, which is like a light green, dark green, and white self-striping throughout both of the socks. And then I used the same colors in each section, so I do not remember what this one is, but then for this section I used the Coldplay, and then down here I use Zombody Wants to Build a Snowman, and then I used a third one here that I don't remember the name of. So 4 different types throughout, and then I just tried to switch the colors roughly at the same stripe each time, because you can see that the stripes pretty much changed at the same time, which ended up being pretty nice. And I think they match good enough. Gook-a-noog. I liked that I kind of stuck with like a color theme throughout, like a green, blue, white color theme, and then with like these little pops of purple and pink to kind of coordinate it all together. So that is all the socks that I have that I've finished over the last couple months, at least since the last podcast. So now we can kind of move into some of the things that I've been working on, and this is where I'm really excited to show you guys. So since I just kind of ended with socks, I'll just continue with socks for now, and then we'll get off the sock train. So I started another pair of DK socks, and these are going to be a pair for my husband. This is what it looks like so far. So I'm doing these on a US 3 32 inch, so I'm doing Magic Loop. This color is from Bumblebee Acres. It's called Pumpkin Ghoul. This is the label. So it's the Squishy DK base, which is a 75% superwash merino and a 25% nylon. This is technically one of their Halloween colors, but when I'm knitting this up, it just reminds me of like a beautiful campfire. I am loving how it's kind of pooling around. I love these. So again, with these, my go-to DK sock pattern is K's DK Vanilla Sock pattern. With these though, I think instead of a heel flap, I'm going to do a German short row heel for Shane. And then I am doing the medium size for him in this pattern. So it is a 48 stitch sock. I knit a little bit looser, so these end up being nice for him. I can't get over how this color is working up. I think in here I get more Halloween vibes, but knit up just with like the grays, transitioning to the blacks. I really think it looks like a campfire. I really love it. So I'm probably going to do a bit of a longer leg than what's written in the pattern for these, maybe like a 40 to 50 round leg. Hopefully I don't run out. Maybe we'll stick with the 40 round so that we don't run out of yarn. But yeah, very simple. Started these a little while ago and they've just been nice to have on the go with me. And then the next pair of socks I have is also for the Vista Dyeworks sock knit along, which is a year-long sock knit along that you can join at any point, but at every 3-month interval, so 3 months, 6 months, 9, and 12, Vista Dyeworks gives out prizes. So I started my pair for November, and I started it early this month. There have been some previous months where I've started like around the 15th and then really struggled and I really procrastinated. So I started very early this month. But this is the label and the color this month is Spaceship Earth. So it's not so much a self-striping but a variegated colorway, and this is what it looks like so far. So again, I am doing the DRK Everyday Socks. I wanted to see how Shane likes the ribbing and if he likes the fit of them. I just finished the heel turn this morning, and I feel like these socks look so long because you are essentially knitting the entire toe to the back of the heel. I don't know, something about it feels so long to me compared to one with the heel flap and gusset. But also part of it is Shane's foot is a lot longer than my foot. So I have really enjoyed watching this color change and knit up. I did get like a lot of purple here and then it started spiraling. And then as I got into the gusset increases, it spaced out a little bit. But I think they look really cool. So I'm working on the leg now. The nice thing with these is I can knit the leg to whatever length I want and then it's good to go. I did really enjoy that these are toe up. It was just really easy to start because once you get past the toe increases, it's nice, rhythmic, easy knitting. I'm just still on the fence if 2x2 ribbing is mindless knitting for me. I think stockinette socks are a little more mindless than these are, but I wouldn't write these off completely as unmindless. I just do have to pay attention. So not necessarily great movie knitting, at least not in the movie theater, but good TV knitting and good for out and about. I just had to be able to look at my hands every now and again. But this is what it looks like in the cake. And yeah. I am again doing these on Magic Loop. So a US 1 2.25 millimeter. And I've been enjoying it. I might try my next pair on, not Magic Loop, on 9" when I do these DRK socks. I think what it is because I usually, when I start these, you start toe up, and it's easier to start with, well, I don't think you could start on a 9" doing the toe up because you do the Turkish cast on over 2 needles. It's like you put them together and when you wrap them and then you knit the first 2 rows and it makes a seamless join. And then doing the increases, I'm also still on Magic Loop. So then by the time I get to the ribbing, I don't necessarily think to switch to 9" circulars. But I haven't knit a pair of socks on 9" circulars in a little while because I think all the previous socks I just showed, except for the January Patreon socks. So I don't think I've knit a pair of socks on 9-inch circulars since about mid-September. I think some 9-inch socks may be calling to me. I don't know. I've just been really enjoying the magic loop lately. But maybe that's why my sock knitting is a little slower, because I definitely knit a little bit faster using 9-inch circulars. Let me know if you knit socks a lot. I mean, if you knit socks at all, do you feel like you switch between methods, or do you stick with one particularly? Do you go through phases? I feel like for me it's just been convenience, and the magic loop has been very accessible and convenient lately. But I do feel like I knit faster on the 9-inch, so I'd like to know what you guys do. Do you have a preference? Do you switch between? Do you feel like you're faster on one? Let me know. So now we can get into some meaty parts of the episode. One of the things I've been working on a lot, and if you've seen my previous vlogs, you will know as well, and if you've just been around the knitting community in the month of October, you probably know about the Twist and Turns MKAL that has been hosted by Stephen West. It is a mystery knit along where you get a different clue starting the first Thursday in October. You get 4 clues, a new one each week. You don't know what it is until the clue releases, and then even then, you could knit the clue and see what it looks like at the end, or you could look at the end of each clue to know kind of where you're going. I definitely fall in the camp the clue releases, and I immediately go look at what the clue is going to look like when we finish. I've always been that person. I've tried doing the MKAL 3 times. The first year I bailed out. Second year I think I finished in January or February after the October release, and then this year. And I am on track to finish by the end of this month. I am on clue 4. I think I am on section 9. I'm not sure exactly. I have lost count of all the sections. So I am going to show my colors. There are timestamps down below if you don't want spoilers. All of my timestamps are down there. So my main color is this green by Porter Wool Company. It is called Into the Woods. My contrast is this caramel by Fru Valberg. And then my accent is Chartreuse with Envy from Nerd's Drink. And I will show you where my shawl is. So I've recently finished a section and have my needles free. But this is it so far. So I have finished through this section here. So this is section 1, and I've talked about all of clue 1 and clue 2 in those vlogs if you'd like to see a little bit more. So section 1, and then the wings of 2 and 3, the cables here of 4 and 5, and then the strips. Well, I think the optional might be 6 and 7. Maybe not. I think this is 6 and 7. They're mirrored, so this might be 6, this might be 7. And then I've done this, which is 8, I believe. So I'm about to start on the mirror image of this stripe section over on this side. So since I talked about clue 1 and 2 in those vlogs, I'll probably skip over those here, but I can talk about clue 3 and 4 so far. So clue 3 was these strips. It was a 1x1 twisted cable that just went back and forth, and honestly, picking it up and starting it, I enjoyed. It's like 25 stitches. It's easy to memorize. because you just shift over, knit a couple rows, shift back, knit a couple rows. Really nice and easy, meditative, short. However, I really stalled out on these strips. I talked about it a little bit at Craft Night last week, I believe, and I think I came to figuring out why. In all these other sections, stripes. Like, there have been things to work toward. The cables, like, not stripes, but working toward the next cable row. And it was like 30 rows, so it was only a couple cable rows, and then you're like, oh, I'm done. This section, the strips, are easy to memorize, 25 stitches, but because they were only like 25 stitches, I would knit 1 to 2 rows and then go, oh, let me look at this. Or I would just put it down and get distracted. They could not hold my focus. I think because you're doing the same thing, you have to do it for a very long strip. It's all one color. It was easy, but having to constantly turn around really drove me insane. There was like no attainable goal along the way to keep me motivated. Also, the first strip I did, I used my circular, which I have now misplaced. Here it is. I used my circular, and it's not a short cable. So with the 25 stitches could fit on just this cord. So then every time I was constantly turning it around, this was getting all twisted up. The working yarn would get like wrapped through the cord. So I was constantly detangling this and the strip, untwisting it with this, and I think that's also another reason I kept putting it down every couple rows. So I took a little bit of a break. I knit. I think that's when I really focused on finishing these socks. I knit a bandana cowl sample for the store, and I just took a little break. And then last weekend, I picked up this one because I think I had finished the first strip, then took a break. So then I was ready to start this strip. I did it all like within 24 hours last weekend, like over the Saturday to Sunday. But what I did for this strip that made it a lot easier is I put it on DPNs. I watched Knitty Knatty's video and how she was using DPNs for the I-cord, and something clicked and I was like, I should just use double pointed needles for this strip, and it made it so much easier because all the stitches could easily fit on one double pointed needle. And so then when you're flipping, you're not getting the like working yarn stuck in a cord or anything. You're not like twisting it around. It was just easy to flip back and forth. Made a world of difference. I've mentioned before in the past how like sometimes changing your tool can literally take you from hating an experience or just really not enjoying it to being the thing that makes it click and makes you enjoy it. So if you haven't done these strips, or if you're ever doing something on a small amount, just try using straight needles or something without a long cord if you're getting all tangled up. It really made a world of difference. So now I've just stalled out. I haven't worked on it this weekend at all because I had to go and pick up these stitches. And by pick up, I mean literally I have to unscrew my circular, my double interchangeable needle from this cord and stick it on this. Like, I don't even have to like pick them up or thread them on or anything. I just have to change what the needle is attached to. But I also have to have a little bit of focus time to focus on what Steven is saying that I need to do to finish. So that is where this is. I am really excited to finish it. I think it's going to look so good. You can see here I have not done the optional I-cord embellishments, but it's because I do not think this accent color with this orange is gonna go very well. But I did go stash diving and I have this hedgehog sock, which is like a grayish brown with spots of orange. So I'm gonna try using the I-cord out of this. I'll try making one, see if I like it, and then we'll go from there. I have also decided on what bind off I'm going to do. So if you've seen it and if you know there's a long or a short bind off option, I'm not going to tell you right now, but if you have a guess on which bind off option I'm going to pick, I'd be curious to know what you think I might do. I don't think it was too long of a shot. I saw the two and immediately was like, oh, I know which one I'm going to do. I looked at many projects on Instagram and Ravelry to like make sure is the one I like, but I definitely like one option significantly more than the other, so that is the option I will be doing. So if you have a guess, let me know down below. Okay, so I have a few more works in progress, and I may not show all of them to you because this is going a little long. What's really sad is I thought I had really dwindled down my work in progress pile, but it just seems I have a lot still. I have two blankets that I'm working on that are both kind of scrappy blankets, so I probably won't show those here. I am thinking about moving a little bit away from my stash in and stash out videos, so I'm still looking at a nice way to show you kind of my scrappy projects. So if you want to see my scrappy blankets more, let me know how you would like to see them, how you want them incorporated. But, okay, so I have a couple of hats that I have. One is a really long-term whip, and the other one is brand new as of today. So the first one I have is my Musselburgh by Ysolda Teague. I have been working on this Musselburgh since last year. My Ravelry project page does not currently have a photo. I started it September 3rd of last year, but I think I'm really close to finishing this. So this is it so far. I really love the marl, and it's just gotten really cold here, and I realized I really desperately need a hat. All the hats that I have just aren't, they're just not it. So I'm feeling more inspired to finish this, and I love how the marling is looking here, and I think I'm really close. So I'm sure you've heard the Musselburgh. It's very popular, but you start small. It's an any gauge pattern. You start small, you do increases out until you're able to measure your gauge over 1 inch. And then in the pattern, based on your stitches per inch and the size of the hat you want to fit your head, it tells you how many more increases to do until you get your stitch count. You knit it, a long tube, and then you'll repeat the decreases, and then it folds in on itself so it is double layered. I have decided to do this one with a fingering weight yarn. This is Knit Picks palette, and it is the color Grizzly, and it's Palette Twist, which is the marled. So I've used 2 skeins. I have just recently started on my second skein, and I knit these with my Addy Rocket Squared, Addy Novelle. They are a 3mm cord, so I think that's a 2.5, and it's a 16-inch circular. I really like the squared for these. I find it very comfortable. And the reason this project has taken me so long is because for a very long time it was what I deemed emergency car knitting. It literally just lived in the car because it's about 12 to 14 inches of just plain stockinette. So if we ever went anywhere, if I didn't have a sock that was in my bag, if we had to wait in the car, this was my emergency car knitting. So sometimes when we went to the movies, if I didn't have a sock that was ready, I could just take this in. So it hasn't gotten constant work. It's just been a nice lingering whip, which I highly recommend having. Like having one in the car for those moments of like, oh, we have to sit and wait for 15 minutes for this dinner that we want to pick up. Or, you know, sometimes you go somewhere and you just have to wait and it's unexpected. It's nice to have with you. But I'm at the point now where I just want a couple of nice versatile hats in my wardrobe. So I have been putting it more in my backpack instead of living in the car as emergency car knitting, and trying to work on it a bit more. I think I need to measure. That's kind of why it's stalled out now. I need to measure and see how close I am to actually starting the decreases, because I think I'll be able to start them very soon. I still haven't decided if I'm going to knit it longer to do a folded brim or shorter to do just like an unfolded hat. I'm kind of leaning toward a folded brim. However, my next hat project that I have started will have a folded brim. So I don't know. Let me know. I want you to leave me a lot of things in the comments today. Should I do a folded brim or not on my Musselburgh? But the next hat that I have is also by Ysolda Teague, and I started it this morning, and this is the 4th hat. Not 4th as in the number 4, 4th as in like go forth. So I am knitting this out of this color from Nerdstring that I love. It is called All of My Love. It is on their DK tweed. I saw this as their color of the month and immediately knew I needed the tweed. So I'm embarrassed that it's taken me this long to knit this yarn up. For the longest time I thought I was going to do a 1x1 ribbed hat, but then I recently watched Stolen Minutes' first podcast, and she mentioned another Ysolda Teague hat, which is like the Musselburgh, but it's an any gauge, so you can start from the crown and then increase out based on your gauge. And I knew I wanted a ribbed hat. So I like went looking, and then I was looking at Ysolda's patterns. But then, like the best of both worlds is Ysolda has this 4th hat, which is an any gauge pattern, which is great for me knitting hats because I swear I'm notorious for knitting them too big for my head. So the any gauge is great. I was able to start. But the nice thing is like this top half is the stockinette in the round, which means it'll be nice and speedy, as you can see. But it has a nice, thick, ribbed band. So it's like a folded hat with the ribbed band and then the stockinette for the bottom part. So this is the one I decided to go with, and I'm super, super stoked. This is where I'm at. I started it this morning. So you have your pinhole cast on. And I used Brooklyn Tweed's video for this pinhole cast on this morning. Game changer. Great video. It will be linked to my project page. It was a great one to get the pinhole. And I did the beginning increases all on Magic Loop instead of DPNs, which is how I started my Musselburgh. Also, highly recommend doing it on Magic Loop. So I did all my increases this morning. I was able to get to that 1 inch, measured my gauge. I was getting 5.5 stitches an inch. But then I had this moment of like, this is a superwash yarn. The likelihood is it's going to stretch. So I probably won't be getting 5.5 stitches an inch. It's probably gonna be 5 stitches an inch when I block it. But I wanted to keep working on it. So what I ended up doing is I steam blocked this when I got to, when I was almost done with all the increases. I steam blocked it, remeasured my gauge, and it did actually go from 5.5 stitches an inch to 5 stitches an inch. So then I was able to look at the chart and pick the adult medium based on 5 stitches an inch versus the 5.5, which would have made my hat too big. So this is where it's at so far. I feel like it looks minuscule, but we're trusting the process. It probably looks minuscule because it's on a 16-inch circular, but I feel like it looks really, really small. But I'm knitting it at a really tight kind of gauge because I want it to be really warm. So I'm knitting these on a US 4 3.5 millimeter needle. Because the nice thing with the any gauge pattern is you just pick a yarn and you pick a needle that you like together, and then you can just start your hat. Which means no swatching is needed. And the steam blocking was really easy. I just took a wet towel in a hot iron, laid it on top, steamed it out a little bit, was able to measure that change in gauge for the superwash. So yeah, I am really excited about this hat. I hope it's going to turn out well. But this is the one that has a really thick folded brim, so I don't know if my Musselburgh needs a thick folded brim, even though I feel like that's the style I've really been liking. But those are all of my knitting works in progress that I have worked on, except for my Scrappy Blankets. And then I have one project that I'm working on for Shane that I haven't worked on since the last podcast episode, so maybe I'll incorporate that in sometime soon and actually work on it. But I did want to show a few other crafts that I've been starting. So I recently got a spinning wheel. One day when I was at work, I work at Fancy Tiger Crafts here in Denver, which I also want to say I've had many people come to the store looking to say hello, and I love that you guys are doing that. But I do want to say I do a lot of administrative work and don't work on the floor very often. So please, if you ever are planning to come to the store, feel free to message me on Instagram and let me know if you're planning to stop by, and I can, 1, let you know if I'm there, or 2, try to be there if it's like one of my normal work days. But if I'm working from home, or, you know, I'll try to be there. Because I feel really bad when you guys have shown up and then I'm not there. But please, if you ever plan to come to Denver to Fancy Tiger Crafts, let me know and I will try to be at the store when you are there. But one day someone came into the store and recently said, I've moved to Denver, I need to downsize. I have all of these craft supplies if anyone wants them. And normally for a lot of craft supplies, there is a great store in Denver called Recreative, which is basically a thrift store for craft supplies. But on the lady's note, she mentioned that she had a spinning wheel, she had a Swift, she had a ball winder. So I went and I picked up the spinning wheel, and it's a really great story because she mentioned it was a gift to her that someone handed down, and then the fact that she was able to gift it to someone else. And so I'm hoping one day in the future, whether it's like to my children, if I ever have them, or someone that feels like my child, someone that I can pass this down to in the future as well, to like keep this wheel's like gifting history alive, which feels really, really special to be a part of. But I got a Lendrum double treadle. It was in great shape. Only thing I had to replace were some of the plastic parts. And I've tried to start spinning some yarn, and I had done a little bit of drop spindling. And drop spindling is really nice and meditative, but it's really, really slow. Like, I never spun enough on a drop spindle to actually be able to make something. But with a wheel, I was able to do that. And like, I was able to practice so much more in the same amount of time. So I was able to practice, and I spun this little skein of yarn. It's not the greatest. This is all like Corriedale roving. Most of it was left over from my drop spinning class. And then I had a little bit from like needle felting that I had picked up. So this is what it looks like. So this is like my first skein that everyone tells me I should keep because you're never going to be able to replicate it. It's good as like a memento. And like, I'm really proud of it. I think it looks pretty good for a first spun yarn. I definitely learned a lot in this. You can see here I even like broke one of the plies when I was plying it together. It like got knotted, and so I just like broke it and kept going. But it's a cute little skein. But since practicing this, I picked up a few more colors of roving. So what I'm gonna do is I've spun about half of this, and I'm gonna spin this to make another marled yarn, kind of like the Knit Picks palette twist, to make a hat. So I'm trying to spin this one a little thinner. I'm aiming for like a fingering or sport. If it ends up DK, it'll also be okay, because I think I'll be able to knit one of these 4th hats, because they're in any gauge, with this together. I have a bobbin on my wheel right now, and I've spun about half of this orange, and I'm feeling really happy. It's really thin and it's kind of consistent, and we're getting there. But so just very, very, very entry-level spinning. It's been really fun. I think also some other people have gotten into spinning recently. I find it really meditative when you like need to focus less than like a simple stockinette. It's really nice. I don't know, because it takes both of your hands. You have to focus on it, but you can like listen to an audiobook or a podcast and just kind of mellow out and zone out. And since mine's a double treadle, I have to use both my feet, I have to use both my hands, so like picking up your phone is not something you can easily do. And I don't know, it's just been really, really meditative and nice. So I never thought I would ever get into spinning, because just practicing on a wheel or like getting one to practice on is definitely a cost barrier, and I understand for anyone that feels that cost barrier. It's definitely really hard. If you have a local shop where you can go and try a spinning class or try out a wheel, that's really lovely. I feel like if I had had that opportunity, I would have been more inclined to spend a lot of money on a wheel. But now that I've kind of started on it and seen how meditative it is, it's really nice. But one thing I will say is, if you want to try spinning, drop spindling is a great entryway, and it was a great way for me to figure out how to draft and how to get a lot of the basics. And I will say, even if you like drop spinning, but then find it's just so slow that you can't get any progress, but you like the whole process of making the yarn and seeing what happens and doing it. That was my experience, as I enjoy drop spindling. It was fine. I was like, I could see myself doing this, but I just wish I could actually make yarn faster. And then getting the wheel, it just like clicked. So I would say that could be a good indicator if you would like spinning or not. If you do drop spindling and you absolutely hate it, then getting a wheel is probably not going to translate. But if you like drop spindling to the point where like you like the process, you see the progress you're making, you understand how to draft the fiber, it can then translate over pretty well. Wow, that was a really rambly tangent, so thank you for sticking through that. The last thing that I've kind of been working on that I want to show you is I've done a little bit of embroidery. I recently took a class with Robert Mahar, who is a guest instructor at Fancy Tiger, and I did one of the samplers, and I have it in the other room, but I've been working on a sampler that I recently had. So it's just this cute little embroidery sampler. This I've also found very meditative lately, and wanting to pick this up a lot over my knitting. I don't know, a lot of like handcrafts are calling to me right now. But this one's really nice. It's by Cozy Blue and all the instructions are printed and it's just been really nice to work on. I've done most of the moon and now I'm like getting ready to move into some of the florals. So I don't know, this has just been fun doing a little bit of hand stitching in addition to some spinning and knitting. I don't know, my crafts are all over the place right now. I'm trying to move a little bit away from my stash in and stash out videos, which I was doing once a month to kind of show the yarns that I get out versus the yarns that I bring in. Essentially, it was me saying, look at these yarns. I got all these yarns. And it was basically a yarn haul. But the past previous months, I've realized I've really been focusing on using my stash and I haven't brought a ton of new yarn in like I was when I was first beginning this podcast, when I feel like that stage of my life I was kind of stocking up, stockpiling, trying to figure out what yarns I liked, and being in Germany I was just like buying all the European yarn before we left and moved back to the States. But recently I haven't been bringing in as much. So those videos, like the content is just a lot less. So I figured I might just do them at the end of these podcast episodes. At least a little bit. Maybe not everything that I bring in, but a little. I wanted to show, I've gotten the Mysterious Mountain Club from Les Garçons, which is Max and Vincent. I'm also getting their Yeti Advent or Christmas box. I don't remember which one it is, but I love Max and Vincent yarns. I love their pins that come with these clubs, and the one time I didn't do the club I was sad. So I'll probably do all of these clubs. But the first one was, it's on a yak sock this time, and you get a sock set, and it was for 3 months. So I have all 3 months here to show you. So the first one was yak, sock, mysterious squirrel, and the squirrel's nuts. So a really gorgeous red and like grayish brown with this little acorn rose gold stitch marker and the squirrel pin. You also get a squirrel sticker. I also got, this actually might have been the first one, I don't remember which month was first. This is Mysterious Goat and Pepper's Mint. So Mysterious Goat, Pepper's Mint, and the stitch marker. So these are yak sock bases, so they're 70% superwash merino, 20% yak, and 10% nylon. And the yak is so nice. I've done some yak blends before and I love them. So very excited for those. And then this is the pin and sticker from that month. Aren't they so cute? And then the last month is the Mysterious Bear with Max's Khaki. Look at this little throughout. And this one came with a coffee cup. It's so good. And then our pin and sticker. Look at it, it's so cute. So I have all of those. So this is what all 3 months look like together. I think they look so nice. I am thinking about doing the hybrid knit along with Steve & West, and I did think maybe I have my previous club that I haven't used and I have these, so maybe I'll use them together. Otherwise, I think these will make gorgeous socks. Haven't really decided yet. But I love that we get this little postcard that I can keep. And then really the pins and the stickers are just a real icing on top. I then also got this really cute kit from Toft. As I mentioned at the beginning, I love moose, so I got this little Toff Moose crochet kit. And it comes with everything in here that you need. Has the stuffing, the crochet hook, the instructions. So I'm gonna make a little moose. And honestly, this is with DK, and you can use the same pattern in like a bulky yarn to make a bigger moose. So I might end up doing that as well, depending on how much I like the process. So I got this little Toft kit that I'm super excited to work on throughout these holiday months. And then I got a couple new skeins from Ryan of Nerdstring, who is such an amazing dyer in person. So she released some of her fall colors and I love them. And I've really enjoyed working with this superwash DK base, so I'm really excited for these. So I got this color. This is called Venom, and it's like this really rich purpley color. And the sun is setting, so I apologize. My lighting is changing as we're processing and going through this podcast. 100% superwash merino. It's like a really nice rich purple, and so I probably will make another hat. I'm really in need of hats. So I got that, but then this color Cider House on their 2-ply sock base, which is an 80/20. I love a good 80/20 base with the high twist. Isn't it so gorgeous? So Cider House with this mini, I feel like it just screams apple cider and fall, and I love it, and I'll probably be working on it this month if I can get Shane's socks done in time. If not, maybe like a Thanksgiving cast on, or at least that long weekend. I love, 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 love this color. The only other thing I've gotten in is my 24 stripe advent skein from the Cozy Knitter, which I'm not allowed to open until December 1st, which I really almost opened it, but it's a self-striping sock yarn that I will knit a stripe every day in December. It's 2 50-gram cakes in here, and I can't wait to see what it looks like. So are any of you guys doing this as well? I did it last year for the first time and loved it, so I'm excited to do this again. But yeah, that's basically all the knitting and other hand fiber crafts that I've been working on for the past 57 days. How have you guys been? I hope it's been well. Thank you so much for sitting through this longer episode with me. I just had a lot to share, and I'm hoping to share on a little more regular basis now that we have settled into the house. I'm excited for November and the colder weather, the staying home, snuggling up kind of days ahead of us. Definitely have a lot of knitting plans that I want to get done, but the days are going quicker and the end of the year is approaching faster than I knew. I knew it would happen. It's just been, the days are going by quicker and quicker. But as always, thank you guys so much for sitting and hanging out with me. My tea has gone cold. It's basically gone at this point. I hope you got a little bit of stitching done and put a little bit of love into all of your making. I will see you guys again very soon. Make sure that you like and subscribe if you would like to support the channel or know when I post future content. Hitting like and subscribing just gets us to more knitters out there in the community. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I will see you guys again very, very soon. I really appreciate you guys, so thank you so much. Thanks for clicking, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Have a good week, guys. And it's 14 minutes in and I've only talked about one thing. Okay.